Hello there, my dear students. Welcome to Science Made Simple by Ms. Flums. For our standard, I can construct explanations of the processes involved in the cycling of water through Earth's systems, including transpiration, evaporation, condensation and crystallization, precipitation, and downhill flow of water on land. I mentioned in the first video that this is made up of two videos. For this standard, the first one was Introduction of Water Cycle, where we talk about the phases of matter and the different terms used when we study the cycle or the water cycle. For our cross-cutting concept, we have patterns, structure, and function. So I have shared here a video link where you can watch. This video is not mine, so credit to the owner of the video, as well as the pictures and images I use in this video. My video is just to support my students for Science 6. So let's review first the different phases of matter. We have solid, liquid, and gas. Remember, solid holds shape. It has its own shape. It has a fixed volume. Liquid, they take the shape of the container, but they have a fixed volume. Whereas gas, they take the shape of their container and they take the volume of their container. And as you go back to the molecules of solid, they are compact, they are closed to each other. Liquid, there will be spaces in between, but the gas molecules are spread apart, thereby they can move freely. Let us learn also the different terms we have for water cycle. One is evaporation. I want you to remember that evaporation is a process wherein liquid changes to gas. Transpiration, this is happening when plants lose water out of their leaves, and that is when liquid also changes to gas. For condensation, this is when water vapor in the air gets cold and changes back into liquid, forming clouds. So remember when we study about the relationship between altitude and temperature in the troposphere, as the altitude increases, our temperature decreases. So in that process, when water evaporates and it reaches a higher altitude, so the temperature there decreases, and thereby now our gas in evaporation change to liquid, and that is now what you call condensation. So precipitation is when the solid or liquid water that falls from the air and moves to the surface. Examples of this are rain, snow, sleet, and hail. So when this precipitation reaches the surface of the earth, water that flows across the land and collects in rivers, streams, and eventually to the ocean, we call them as runoff. Remember, all water will move downhill, so wherever they are, they will find its way to a body of water and eventually to the ocean. So once water reaches the ground, they will find its way, sift through the soil, and reach under the soil. We call them groundwater. So these are the terms that we need to understand as we learn about water cycle. So remember, evaporation, this is when water changes from liquid to gas. Transpiration is when water also changes from liquid to gas, but this is happening in plants. Condensation is when gas changes back to liquid. So precipitation now is when this water now from above will fall to the surface of the earth in the form of rain, snow, sleet, and hail. When you say runoff, this is the water that's flowing from a higher ground downhill. They will find its way to a body of water and eventually to the ocean. Whereas groundwater is when water located within the rocks below the earth. So you have now your runoff, the water runoff will find its way to the ocean, but on their way there are some holes on the surface where this water will find its way to seep down, and they are now located underground, so you call them groundwater. So putting all these processes together, you will end up to what we call a water cycle. So what is a water cycle? This is a continuous movement of water into the air and to land and back into the air over and over again. So that means it's a cycle. It's moving in a circular direction. So where it comes from, eventually it will return back to where it comes from. So for example, this is a body of water here. When heat is added, evaporation will take place. That is changing liquid to gas. So when this gas reaches now a higher altitude, remember when in the troposphere, when the altitude is higher, temperature will decrease. So in this process, heat is removed, thereby changing our gas to liquid again. And that is what you call now condensation. So when these clouds become heavier and it cannot take, or the clouds cannot hold more liquid, then precipitation will take place. Precipitation, as we mentioned earlier, comes in different forms. It could be a snow, rain, sleet, or hail. Once it reaches the surface of the earth, it can be considered as a surface runoff as it finds its way to another body of water. So just like, for example, in here, they're called accumulation because this water runoff moves towards a body of water where they are collected in there. And that the collection of water in there is what you call accumulation. On the other hand, transpiration is just the same as evaporation, but the difference is that in transpiration, it comes from plants. So the same process, when heat is added, water evaporates. So it's a change from liquid to gas. Once it reaches a higher altitude, temperature decreases, so thereby this gas again changes to liquid in the process known as condensation. When the clouds cannot hold any more water, then precipitation will take place. And that is now when this is the solid or liquid water that falls from the air to the surface in the form of rain, snow, sleet, and hail. So this is how the different processes take place or moves from one to another, and this is what you call now the water cycle. Why is it called the hydrologic cycle also? Because remember, the water part of the earth is what you call the hydrosphere. So this is how water moves from one process to another. This is how water is being changed from one state to another in nature. So if you go back to our standard, it says, I can construct explanations of the processes involved in the cycling of water through Earth system. So I hope you understand now what transpiration is, evaporation, condensation and crystallization, precipitation, and downhill flow of water on land. So that will be all for today. So next video to watch, weather and instruments.